Hello, everybody. Welcome back to a Memorial Day edition of Wisconsin Weather Experts. We are so grateful and thankful, and we celebrate those who made the ultimate sacrifice on this Memorial Day, of course. But our weather is lovely here in Wisconsin. It was all weekend long. We had sunshine. We had, below average temperatures, but to have the sunshine, it's worth it. Different story elsewhere, though.
Yeah, and we've really been tracking areas near the south where it's been consecutive days of not only rain, but severe weather. And this slow-moving low pressure system eventually will come our way and give us some rain, but nothing like what the South has been dealing with. In fact, one of the things we're going to take a look at is significant hail. That was a big problem. We had this massive amount of hail that fell in Texas. And actually, as I look here, the hail size was 5.5 inches, as well as 6-inch giant hail was there. That hail actually does not break the record, which we've talked about before.
Yeah.
South Dakota, it was 8 inches.
Which is incredible to think about.
Yes, and this hail was bigger than a baseball size. We, again, had some hail grapefruit that could be larger in some spots, but here's a look, actually, from Colt Forney with the atmospheric chaos who was out there. And again, just look at the baseball size compared to that hail. It's huge.
Wow.
Definitely wouldn't want to be out in that either.
And you
Very
can
dangerous.
tell, too, just how many other hailstones probably attached itself to that. You can see all the little bumps in the ridges and everything. Remember when hail forms, it starts as a little raindrop, but then it freezes, and other little raindrops can freeze to it as well. So you can tell it went through quite the process.
Yeah, and it's incredible to see something that large that can withstand being in the air and being lofted in the air that long. It just comes to a point when the weight of it gets so heavy when all that sticks together, as Steph just mentioned, that it can't support the weight anymore. The updraft can't, so it just comes barreling down to the surface. Again, while it's incredible to see, it also is extremely dangerous to be out and even get a sample of this. So, of course, we don't advise people to go outside when there's hail, and if people do, hopefully they have helmets and safety measures because that can be deadly.
Absolutely.
In other areas that maybe didn't see the hail, but a little bit further north, we're talking about portions of Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas. They had massive amounts of rain, which I know Steph's going to touch on in a little bit. And because of this, portions of Oklahoma experienced a rock slide south of Fort Gibson Dam. Of course, that shut down the roads there, but you can tell with all the rain, things certainly are lush. Unfortunately, the added rain, and we're talking a lot of rain. Some areas are still experiencing it now with some reports 4 or 5 inches. That is going to cause the concern for some rock slides, for mudslides, as well as significant flooding. And really the flooding is going to be a big concern where it's just been a soggy weekend overall. There have been reports, and I've seen some photos of cars going through water, which of course, unfortunately is something that people do all the time. We say turn around, don't drown, because not only are you putting your life in harm's way, but the people who have to rescue you also are putting their lives in harm's way.
We also need to remember, I just mentioned this at 11, if anybody was watching Fox 6, Oklahoma City specifically saw their rainiest April on record.
Wow.
We've been talking about flooding in this region for weeks, for months. We've just seen this period of time where storm system after storm system has brought over 2-3 inches of rainfall. So to be talking about it still over this past weekend is just incredible. How much more rain can they handle?
And that's the big question. Also, some of those areas like Branson, Missouri, we're talking about northwestern Arkansas. Those are zones where the Ozark National Forest is. And it's very mountainous. I mean, I've been there camping and hiking, and when that rain falls, it comes really fast down some of the steep terrain, causing low-lying flooding not only in the streams but across the streets. So it's a big problem, especially as they're just continuing to be dealing with this system day in and day out over the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of times they will have to where you see all those rocks on those hills, netting or something along those lines. Not everywhere, but a lot of times they do. But they're not always enough when it comes to rock slides. They can still go over, and
the weight of them too. Netting's only so strong. And sometimes that netting is made out of metal, which is interesting to see. We don't really have a lot of that here, but it is something we're continuing to watch, at least in the terms of the amount of rain that they are seeing in some of those locations.
Yes.
So we're continuing to track that. I know our system is potentially trying to load the preset
I know
totals
the one
here.
graphic I want to show you guys is not loading, so we'll skip ahead.
Okay.
That's okay. As we dive into our regional weather, we'll just kind of skip ahead to some of the flooding reports. As you can see, this is over the last 24 hours, so clearly this region has been dealing with the heavy flooding. And when it comes to estimated rainfall totals, it's not just Oklahoma. I mean, parts of that state, parts of Texas, Arkansas, specifically more southern Arkansas, have picked up over 2-3 inches of rain. In fact, as I was looking at some of the rainfall totals over the last 3 days, some are over 4 and even 5 inches of rainfall. And that, of course, has led to flash flooding. So these are flood reports across the region. It just puts it into perspective, the spots that have been dealing with steady and heavy rainfall. And a lot of this actually stemmed from strong thunderstorms that produced rainfall rates of 2 to 3 inches per hour. Think about that. That's just incredible power there when it comes to the heavy rain. So they have been dealing with it for days now, unfortunately. And you can see the spots in this darker green. Those are flood watches, and those remain in effect. Look at some of these more lime green colors, though, across Oklahoma. Those are flood warnings, also likely going to stay in effect for quite some time as they are recovering from some of this flooding and just very heavy rainfall. Now, the rain is for the most part moving out of Oklahoma, so some good news there, but you can still see heavy rainfall right along the lower Mississippi Valley across portions of Arkansas. Not quite there yet in Louisiana, but look at this line just passing through Louisiana, a nice Boeing line there, producing severe weather, very strong wind. Earlier, there was a tornado warning associated with it. Now, thankfully, no tornado warnings, but still ongoing severe thunderstorm warnings for heavy rainfall, hail, as well as strong wind. So that's going to continue to make its way eastward throughout, the rest of the day today. There is a severe threat remaining for the rest of today. In fact, out towards Texas, there is an enhanced risk, but you can see that level 2 extending towards Louisiana and those Gulf Coast states, Mississippi, as well as Alabama. Now, as we look a little closer to home, you can see a big old high pressure system impacting us here across the Great Lakes region, including here in Wisconsin. So we're enjoying sunshine today, but you'll notice there is more rain just out towards the west across South Dakota, Nebraska, down through those areas down south that are dealing with some of the stronger thunderstorms at this hour. So we're going to stay quiet across the state of Wisconsin today. I do think we'll eventually see some more clouds start to build in, but smooth sailing for the remainder of the day. Notice how that rain gets a little bit closer out west of us for Tuesday. Most of our day Tuesday is just going to be cloudy. Aside from northern Wisconsin, we could start to see some showers up towards the north. Those of us towards the south can't rule out a stray shower Tuesday afternoon, but notice Wednesday morning how we really start to see it filling in. And that's going to stay with us much of the day Wednesday. We could see a few dry breaks here or there, but most of the day right now is looking pretty soggy. And then notice into early Thursday morning, we could still see just the back edge of some of this wraparound moisture. So Thursday morning, still a few sprinkles. And then the rest of Thursday into Friday, there is still the chance for a few showers or rumbles of thunder. Not the widespread rain we'll see Wednesday, but it does get a little bit more active mid to late week when it comes to the chance for rain. All the more reason to get outside and enjoy today's weather. Now, this is a really cool view, and this is, of course, in honor of Memorial Day. As we switch gears and start focusing on your remainder of your Memorial Day forecast, this is one of the cameras that we have with our camera network that we're so lucky to have. This is in Muskegon, Michigan, the USS Silverside's Submarine Museum. This was an active submarine during World War II. Now you can tour it. It's a museum. Really, really cool stuff. Of course, we know Memorial Day is a day to honor everybody that served and, of course, lost their lives ultimately. So we're lucky to have a really cool view of that museum in Muskegon, Michigan. Now back to Milwaukee. Temperatures today, upper 50s. Maybe we'll squeak by with a 60-degree high temperature today. Inland areas going to be a little bit warmer, though, in the mid-60s. And I'll leave you with Memorial Day stats for today. So yes, those temperatures, little cooler than average. Average high for today is about 71. The warmest Memorial Day we've ever seen, though, in the 90s. So it's not not going to be uncomfortable like that. And also notice days with any precip about 51%. So we're lucking out today. Usually a 50-50 chance for it to be sunny or rainy. And we've got the sunshine here locally. So very thankful for that.
Yeah, we really are. Something that we have been tracking too is some cooler temperatures. The warmth looks to eventually be back as we're heading into the start of June. But what those cooler temperatures have been doing for us, it's been creating some unique fog across the area over the weekend. Some photos that I captured over the weekend during the morning. There's two types of fog. We have radiation fog and steam fog. And this one's a kind of a combination of both. But really what we're going to break down with this photo is the radiation part of it. And I know it sounds bad. It's not like, you know, radiation that can harm you.
Right.
It has to do with the sun's energy, which heats the earth. That escapes back into the atmosphere when we head into evening hours. So because of that, and we've had a lot of rain last week, all that moisture near the surface then condenses into a cloud or condenses into fog as that heat radiates from the earth back into the atmosphere. So that creates the radiation part of the fog. Then we had steam fog. So almost like when you're in the bathroom and you see that hot steam boiling up or a pot, this looks the same way. It's got a very slow moving, kind of moving up. Typically you see it in little riverways and bog areas. And we even have it on Lake Michigan. We usually see it pick up in the fall months. And this was a time of year where the body of water was warmer, even though it wasn't the lake, was warmer than the air. So that actually evaporated some of the water in the air from the waterway there, as the air was a lot colder and couldn't hold as much moisture. So really kind of cool to see some fog over the weekend. Of course, we've had some fog this morning in some spots, a lot less than what we had over the weekend. But so far, regardless of the fog in the morning, this holiday weekend's been gorgeous.
It has been.
Better, a little cooler than sweating and being uncomfortable.
Nobody wants to be in the 90s today. I think we can all agree on that. And I like the heat. So thankful for that.
Yes, absolutely. Well, as we take a live look outside right now, we are still having that beautiful shot over Milwaukee. We have a lot more coming up after the break, especially hurricanes. That season's just around the corner. We're going to give you the scoop coming up.
Welcome back, everybody, to Wisconsin Weather Experts on Fox Local, as well as our Fox 6 YouTube page. I know it seems out of season, but actually we're not too far from the start of hurricane season. So we're going to take some time to chat about what that could potentially hold as we start June 1st and go throughout those summer months. It's also worth mentioning that since Hurricane Katrina, this year marks the 20th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina that, of course, devastated Louisiana and especially New Orleans. Fox's Chanley Painter takes a closer look at what millions could possibly expect and, of course, how to prepare for those hurricanes.
The Hurricane Center is fully staffed up and we're ready to go.
The 2025 Atlantic hurricane season begins June 1st, and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration says communities in storm-prone areas should start preparing now for what's expected to be an above-average season.
Specifically, it's a 60% chance of above normal season.
Forecasters are calling for 13 to 19 named storms, of which wind speeds reach 39 miles per hour or higher.
Of these, 6 to 10 are forecast to become hurricanes. And that's when you get to the 74-mile-an-hour mark. And 3 to 5 is the number of major hurricanes. That's Cat 3 and above.
For reference, 18 named storms formed last year, including Hurricanes Helene and Milton. The National Hurricane Center says 2024 was the deadliest hurricane season since 2005.
The 2024 hurricane season outlook that was issued in May last year was right on the money.
But agency officials are confident in yearly technology advancements that help them forecast and track storms more accurately.
Weather prediction, forecasting, modeling is a top priority of ours.
Besides warning of the potential for devastating winds, experts say residents near and far from where hurricanes make landfall can still face deadly storm surge and flooding.
In 2024, inland flooding was one of the most destructive forces, with rainfall totals from Hurricane Helene exceeding 30 inches in communities located hundreds of miles from the coast.
The Atlantic hurricane season typically lasts through November 30th. I'm Chanley Painter, Fox News.
Well, it's great information to know, always being prepared.
Yes.
The season starts as we head into Sunday, which is the first of the new month. And again, it's never too early to be prepared, because we're going to talk about, coming up shortly, some development that's already in portions of the ocean. We're going to dig into more details, though, about hurricane season, again, since it's nearly here. This is the tropical cyclone name list for the Atlantic Basin only for the year of 2025. Of course, everyone always likes to know, is my name on the list this year? Or do you know someone under this name? So this is the list of names. What you might also recognize, and we're going to get into shortly, is it doesn't include all the letters of the alphabet. So we'll give you a little history lesson coming up. Then we have another graphic that Stephanie created of the name list that goes through 2030, but it looks a little different.
It does. So we actually covered this a couple months ago, but when a tropical cyclone or a hurricane is strong enough and is impactful enough, the Hurricane Center will actually retire names. So specifically from 2024, Beryl, Helene, and Milton were all retired. And we cycle through these lists again in future years. So you'll notice it says Atlantic Basin 2030. They're going to use 2024's list again in the year 2030, if that makes sense, but with new names because those three were retired. So Beryl's replaced with Brianna, Helene with Holly, and then Milton with Miguel. So something that also could happen year to year when we see, unfortunately, these very damaging and impactful storms.
Yeah, and like Katrine's another one. So the reason why they name these is it quickly identifies storms in warning messages. Rather than naming it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you can easily identify which storm there is, because there can be multiple tropical systems in the oceans at a time. It's easier for media like us to communicate with the public, and it can heighten the interest in warnings and preparedness.
So all really to help the messaging there.
Yes, absolutely. The names are chosen by the International Committee of the World Meteorological Organization. So no, we do not choose them here at the station. The names alternate male and female since 1979. Prior to that, they used to just be male names. There's 6 name lists in rotation. So as Stephanie just mentioned, they rotate these. So the one in 2019, for example, would be used in 2025. Only time a name change, again, Steph just talked about this, is if the storm is so deadly or costly that the future use of this name can be very sensitive if it would be used on a different storm and would in fact almost be inappropriate. So
Right.
a reason to that, they do not use those names again.
Yeah.
Another fact that might be interesting is that it doesn't cover all the letters, right?
Right, exactly. As you can see on here, it excludes kind of the harder ones, we'll say. Q, U, X, Y, and Z, of course, because there are only so many names that we can use with those letters. And also, due to the geographical coverage of the Atlantic and Caribbean, names are in English, French, and Spanish. Now, 2020 was a really active season. Maybe you remember that. I still vividly remember it. We went through the entire list of names, and then when that happens, we then start using the Greek alphabet. So in 2021, in lieu of the Greek alphabet, though, a supplemental list of tropical names would be used.
Yeah, and we did that because what if we went through the list every year? We would end up having the same Greek alphabet name every year, which overall wouldn't really make sense because then you could get storm names confused. So it's good that they've actually changed this, but we are watching the tropics because we have a system right now that we are continuing to watch as we are progressing in through the upcoming days. Just in time for hurricane season, the National Hurricane Center is tracking a cyclone off the west coast of Mexico in the eastern Pacific that could potentially develop into a tropical system in the next 7 days. And a 90% chance, that's pretty strong. One thing that we were mentioning with the systems is even though we have the chance of tropical cyclones developing, possibly turning into hurricanes, it doesn't always mean it's going to hit land.
Right.
So we like them to stay over the waters, of course. That would bring the substantial impacts, not over land, not causing damage and possible fatalities. But we do see a lot of them. And as the season progresses, it depends on the ocean temperature. Sometimes we get dust that moves in from the air off of the coast of Africa, and that can actually dampen or weaken the storm. So there's a lot of different factors that come into play, whether a storm will grow and maintain strength or whether it can die out and weaken at sea.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting that you mentioned that because it was just last year where we had a lull in our tropical activity during a time where normally it would be a bit more amplified, and it was because of the Saharan dust that we had that kind of paused everything a little bit. So you might hear that from time to time. It is something that we deal with every so often. But June 1st, again, the start to hurricane season, and all eyes will be glued on the tropics through September.
Well, and we're going to have to take a look, but taking a look outside right now as we go to our next break, we are looking at Muskegon again. What a great shot, Steph,
Great shot. Again, this is a museum, submarine museum, all about World War II. They cover heroes. I did my research this morning. Muskegon, Michigan, sunny there, sunny here. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for staying with us here on Fox Local on this Memorial Day. Yesterday was something, Lisa. I'm not here. We're talking about an Indy.
Yeah, it was quite the show, not only for the normal racers at the Indy 500, but hot diggity dog. Let's take a look at this absolute emotional and historic day over the weekend in the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the inaugural Weenie 500. 6 Oscar Mayer Wienermobiles went head-to-head in a race around the track. Now, the Shy Dog, Chicago Dog, represented the Midwest. The New York Dog was representation for the East, the Slaw Dog for the Southeast,
the Chili Dog for the South, Seattle Dog for the Northwest, and the oh, Lisa, what is that?
You know, I've never heard of this one, but I'm sure someone knows. A sonar dog?
I was going to say Sonoran.
Sonoran dog?
Dog in the Southwest. We're going to look that one up. But I love that every area is represented. So during the race, one of the Wienermobiles started smoking from the engine, and the announcer said, "We've got smoked buns. That is an overcooked dog." So even the commentary you can hear if you missed this was fantastic. Topping out at 60 miles per hour, the Wiener Slaw Dog Mobile and won, let's see, the Wiener was Slaw Dog Mobile and won less than a Wiener length crossing the finish line. Creative.
Look at the fans. I mean, they're even wearing the hot dog costumes.
I know.
Speaking of fans that may be going out there, get
Epic
a little
fans.
crazy. Can you believe our own chief meteorologist, Rob Haswell, was at the Admirals game? And take a look at him. Getting into it. As he was at the playoff game against the Texas Stars, he got the chance to get the crowd pumped up during the second period by turning the siren. I've never seen him like this. Could you imagine?
This is his jam, though. I feel like hockey Rob is different than TV Rob.
Could you imagine him like this on TV, though? Doing the weather?
I don't know. Halloween gets a little crazy sometimes, so... Maybe.
Rob does play hockey, though, so he's got that energy in him. He's pumping, he's having a good time, and hopefully, you know, they say he helped them win the game.